Welcome to Lazav's Army of Darkness. Hope you're excited. As far as our opening hand goes, yes, I love this. We have Creeping Tar Pit, Death Storehouse. We have two more lands, so basically 4 lands in the hand: Jace, Hedron Archive, and Hero's Downfall. This is pretty much everything we want in an opening hand. I was going to keep on this one. The only thing that'd make it better is we have something like Entomb, but I will definitely keep on this. So let's see if our opponent wants to mulligan past 6 or not. And we'll get, there we go. They're going to stay at 6, and then we'll go and get the game going. But yes, welcome. Excited to show off some pretty cool Lazav interactions. Hopefully we get some good stuff going for you. We're playing Lazav. Whenever Lazav enters the battlefield, surveil 1, and then for an activated ability, Lazav becomes a copy of target creature card in our graveyard with converted mana cost X, and it still has that ability. Let's go and lead off with Creeping Tar Pit. Enter the battlefield tapped, and we're going to kick it back over there. But yes, we're playing against the Church of Athreos, which hopefully we'll see what sort of build we've got going on. And I love that swamp. That is a very, very nice swamp. Hey! Alright, so our opponent's a fan of the channel. That's really cool. Said I got him into commander, so that's really that's always neat. I like hearing that. That's really cool. Let's go and lead off with Bloodstained Mire. It's going to get down Underground Sea, and we're going to go for Surveil. I think I like that. Let's go and get down. Where are you? Underground Sea. Let's go and get down Lazav. That's going to be blue and then black. Get the Surveil 1 going. Hopefully we hit something pretty good. Worn Power Stone. Yeah. I don't mind that, actually. Yeah, let's go and put that on top. One of the good things about this deck is if you can get down something like Jace and you just have access to a ton of mana, it really helps you kind of push that late game kind of game plan that we've got going on. But we are playing against the Church of Athreos. Indestructible. Devotion 7 turns into a creature. And then, whenever another creature you own dies, return it to your hand unless target opponent pays 3 life. Now, to my knowledge, Athreos was bugged for a really long time, and I think they fixed it during this last update. So we'll see. And we'll try to use the honor system as much as possible. It's going to get down Island. Now, what we can do is we can go for Phyrexian Dreadnought, and that would be a really quick commander damage on our opponent. I want to go for Uazama's Jitte. Or actually, if we get down Worn Power Stone and enter the battlefield tapped. Yeah, let's do this. Let's go for Worn Power Stone. I've got another video where we just go for a Phyrexian Dreadnought win, and I just it's nice. It's a nice card to have, and we'll need it. We'll use it when we need it. But at this point right now, I want to get a little bit more of a grindier match. So let's go and swing in for 1. So knock our opponent down to 29, and then we'll go and pass the turn to our opponent. But yeah, so we kind of have this really nice Tezzeret build. I was really excited when I originally built Lazav. It was kind of a little bit all over the place. It's just kind of this core black-blue reanimator, and then once I kind of started to fine-tune, I was like, well, you know, we need to have a sort of blank in here for Lazav. Maybe an unblockable creature would be nice. And then as time wore on, I was like, man, I just kind of want to turn this into just a really sweet Voltron deck. That's pretty much what we've got going on. One of our main win conditions is going to be something like Phyrexian Dreadnought. If things get a little bit nutty, we'll go for that. But at this point right now, we're just going to leave it in our hand. We also have Blighted Agent, and we have a few other unblockable creatures at the 1-drop. Stuff like Slither Blade, and then Triton Shorestalker, which actually work out really well for stuff like Uazama's Jitte. We're just basically trying to squeeze as much value as possible out of the combat step, which makes for a really fun board state sometimes. Okay, so we draw into Island. It's going to get down Island. It's going to allow us to go Hedron Archive into Jace. Which I like the sound of that. Yeah, let's do that. Let's go to get down Island. Let's go for Hedron Archive. And then we'll go and get down Jace. And we'll start brainstorming. So hopefully we kind of brainstorm maybe into some sort of fetch land. And then we can kind of start digging a little bit deeper into our library. Ooh, Hope of Ghirapur, Bojuka Bog, and then Yahini. Definitely want to hold on to Bojuka Bog. Let's go and put Phyrexian Dreadnought back on top. And then Death Storehouse on top too. Let's go and push in for 1. And then we're going to pass the turn to our opponent. So we've got a 19-turn clock established on our opponent. We get that commander damage coming across. But yeah, so as far as the deck goes, you know, there's also some really good artifact creatures in here. Stuff like Hope of Ghirapur. That's one of those cards that we can get it down, deal some combat damage. It's a flying creature, so it helps us kind of push in some Uazama's Jitte or get a Sword of Feast and Famine trigger. And then we can sacrifice it to kind of blank them out for a turn to make us get a little bit extra value, get that trigger going. And then we can also have Lazav become a copy of it. So you kind of get into this weird position to where if you have more than enough mana like we do right now, you have a 2-drop commander, you can almost kind of blank them out as far as being able to cast non-creature spells if you get down Hope of Ghirapur and deal some damage to your opponent pretty quick. Alright, so we draw into Death Storehouse. We're going to bounce something back with Jace, because that puts us in a position to where we can go for Hero's Downfall. Yeah, because either way, if we bounce Jace, let's do it like this. And actually, if we go for the bounce ability, they can actually just sacrifice and get that creature on the battlefield. So let's go and get down. Let's go for the Jace ability, actually, now that I think about it. Because even if they do, they'll sacrifice it, and then that'll allow them to still get a 2/2 zombie. Ooh, fetch land. That's exactly what we wanted to see. Let's get... let's put Death Storehouse on top. I'm going to put Swamp back on top, too. Let's go and get down Flooded Strand. And let's go and get down Jitte. Let's go and equip Jitte onto Lazav. Get on Hope of Gearport, and let's go and get down Yahini too. And actually, if we want to at this point, we can just basically swing in with Lazav, just kind of get those charge counters going on to Jitte if we want to. Yeah, let's do it like this. So we swing in with Yahini. And before we go to blockers, let's go and sacrifice Hope of Gearport. Let's go and crack Flooded Strand. Let's go and grab Island, and then we'll have Lazav become a copy of Hope of Gearport. There we go. All right, so it's going to be a 1/1. Deal some combat damage to our opponent. Get those charge counters going, and that way we can use that that -X ability, that -1/-1 on something to kind of stop them from swinging across at Jace. Okay, we're going to get 2 charge counters onto Jitte, and then anything else, we're going to go and pass the turn back over to our opponent. Now, that is going to be a 4/3 with Sifter of Skulls. So we'll see if that's what they want to go for. And then if things, like, let's say that their graveyard gets going really well, using sacrificing Lazav for the Thopter activation or the sacrifice Hope of Gearport to make them not cast a non-creature spell, that's something we might kind of use later in the game. But at least at this point right now, we can hopefully kind of start to build up some of those Jitte triggers. And like I mentioned, if the board state gets really nice, we can still go for that Phyrexian Dreadnought. One of the fun things about this deck is, giving it flying simply just for 1 mana, and then at the last minute switching it to Phyrexian Dreadnought once we get past the block step where they can't declare a blocker on it. And one of my favorite things about when you play Commander sometimes is the ability to just kind of, you have these really mechanical commanders. Like, I've really enjoyed Grimgrin. I enjoy the ability of being able to kind of like sacrifice a creature, you untap Grimgrin, you don't get to untap them. And the activated abilities from Lazav is just such a, it's just such a fun thing for a commander card. Like, I love, ooh. We've got Incarnate coming down. Okay, it's not going to have haste. It will give us a few extra counters onto Yahini. You get that 2/2 black zombie token. And that'll simply just be Sifter of Skulls. So if we end up using all of our Jitte activations, that'll at least allow us to... And I love this card too. I love the art on it. That's going to make our life total down to 14. Excuse me, 15, and then we can still at least keep Jace on the battlefield, so if they decide to swing in with Sifter of Skulls. Ooh, then Scourge-Stag High Priest, so this is a, I'm really digging this. I love playing against Athreos, and I love playing Athreos, so it's always fun to get to play against Scourge-Stag High Priest. Okay, so we'll be swinging in at Jace. Let's go and go for Jitte. Target creature gets -1. And let's go for 1 more activation and put 1 more on Sifter of Skulls. There we go. So sitting at a 2/1, that's going to at least keep Jace on the battlefield. And then we'll decide how we want to sequence next turn. We can still, like I said, swing in with Phyrexian Dreadnought, or simply just have it become a copy of it as a blocker to kind of protect Jace. So we draw into Swamp. Let's go and go for the Brainstorm ability. And let's go and put Island back, let's put Swamp on top, and definitely want to hold on to Polluted Delta, because it's going to allow us to at least kind of shuffle the top part of our library. Yeah, let's go and put Contraband Kingpin back on top. It's not going to help us out too much. Let's go and get down Polluted Delta. Let's go and swing in with Lazav. That way we can get the charge counters. We'll just go and leave up Yahini at this point right now. Okay, so we're going to get those 2 charge counters going. Let's go and sacrifice Lazav. And we definitely want to take care of Scourge-Stag High Priest, because with an open Altar of Dementia over there, that's not going to be good. I have a lot of respect for Scourge-Stag High Priest. He is a very proud parishioner of the church. I know what he's capable of. He has some really nice... he just loves Athreos a lot, so we want to keep him off the battlefield. So we're going to go for Hero's Downfall, and that'll allow us to still recast Lazav. Let's get Lazav popped back up. And then we'll still have the charge counters off of Jitte, which is still such a weird Magic card. Okay, opponent will go for the sacrifice in response to that, giving us an additional counter on Yahini. Let's go for Lazav. And we're going to get the Surveil 1. And yes, we definitely want to put that into the graveyard. Yes, we're okay with that. So it's going to go into the graveyard, and then we'll just go ahead and cast Phyrexian Dreadnought, and then still just go ahead and have it just go ahead and die, and then that way it's going to go straight into the graveyard. That's one of the good things about Phyrexian Dreadnought in this deck is that we have to sacrifice a creature once it enters the battlefield, and you can basically always just sacrifice Phyrexian Dreadnought, and you're in a pretty good position. All right, we're going to click OK on Phyrexian Dreadnought, and then anything else we're going to pass the turn to our opponent. Now, Jace is sitting at 1, unfortunately, so if our opponent does decide to want to swing in, they could definitely get some of that going. They'll be able to take care of Jace, but at least at this point right now, we can go for double Jitte activations on those 2 Scion tokens. If they do decide to swing in with Sifter of Skulls and that zombie token and the Incarnate, we'll kind of see exactly how this board state plays out, but at least we have some sort of interaction with our opponent. Now, if we don't really draw into anything good for next turn, one thing that we can do is simply just go ahead and go for Hedron Archive, just to kind of cash that 2 mana in for 2 card draw, which will hopefully kind of help us push them towards some sort of game plan. Okay, so we finally do have Athreos coming down, and let's see, yeah, that actually will be Devotion, because it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, be exactly enough Devotion off of all the creatures on the battlefield and Phyrexian Arena. So let's see how our opponent wants to decide to swing in on this. Okay, so we do have 3 creatures swinging in at Jace, and that's going to be a 7 and a 4/3 swinging across at us. Man, I'm really tempted to... Yeah, I think I like doing this. Let's go for Jitte. Let's go and always yield to Yahini's activated or triggered ability. And since that's just a token, we're not going to pay 3 life off of that. I've had a couple different people sometimes do that, where they paid the 3 life off of a token. I'm always like, thank you. Much obliged. Thank you for that tithe to the Church of Athreos. Let's remove 1 more counter off of that Scion token. That'll at least make Yahini a 6/6, and then we have to sacrifice another creature to give Yahini indestructible. But at this point right now, we'll decide how we want to sequence this. So if we actually declare Yahini a blocker on Incarnate, that's at least we can kind of dodge a Athreos trigger. No, we're not going to pay 3 life. No, we're fine with that. And then hopefully with them kind of building this graveyard up with Altar of Dementia, that's going to make for a really nice Bojuka Bog. Now they do have access to some pretty good mana, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if they do have some sort of Mass Reanimator spell, they'll definitely be able to take care of it. But if they pass to next turn, we'll at least have Jitte available to us. And let's go and have Lazav become a copy of Phyrexian Dreadnought. Okay, so let's go and block on... It's okay if we lose that mana. Let's go ahead and Yahini's going to block on the zombie token, which is swinging in at Jace, and we're going to have Lazav block on Incarnate. And so that's going to be 4 coming across, which is going to put us down to 10. And we will go ahead and pay that, that 3 life. Yeah, do we want to do that? It's going to give him a Scion token. And that, unfortunately... Okay, there we go. All right, so that first Athreos trigger is going to be for the token, which is not going to go back to the hand. And, man, I think we're okay with paying that 3 life. Yeah, I'm okay with that. We can just leave them in the graveyard. They'll end up with the Scion token out of the deal. But we still get to protect Jace. We've got at least 12/12 with Lazav. We've got an 8/8 Yahini, which is pretty nice. I'll definitely take that. Okay, it looks like they will pass the turn. So at least at this point right now, it's going to lead off with Bojuka Bog. Oh, look at we got the Veiled coming down. Let's go lead off with the Bojuka Bog. Exile our opponent's graveyard. Okay, opponent will end up going for Path to Exile on Yahini, which there's not really much we can do in response to that. So, yeah, we'll have to go and let that go through. And that's going to be, at least let's go ahead and get down Island at this point. No, we've got a ton of islands. We'll go and grab a Swamp off of that. Exile our opponent's graveyard. Let's go and go for Jace ability. Let's go for the Brains. I was going to bounce the Scion token back, but with them going for Path to Exile, that does not give us lethal. So let's go and go for Jace, draw 3 cards. It's going to be Sunken Hollow and Gurmag Swiftwing. Let's go and put Sunken Hollow on top. And I think at this point right now, we just need to get as many creatures on the board as possible, which I'm completely fine with that. So let's go and put Soul Ring on top. Let's go and get down Swiftwing. Let's go and get down Virtus the Veiled. And then partner with, I feel so bad. Grom's not in here, Virtus, man. He's not. I always tell him he's not in here. You need to get your pickaxe away. Put it away, buddy. No, we're not going to use that ability. I always feel like he's going to be really sad to find that out. Let's go ahead and tap down Hedron Archive. We're going to be able to equip a Jitte onto Lazav. And then let's go and get down a Blighted Agent. Okay. So we'll get that down. Let's go and swing in with Lazav finally. Well, that's okay. They've got 2 I didn't mean to swing in with I forgot that Gurmag does have haste. Now, if you want to talk about a really good creature in a Voltron deck for Lazav, that's going to be Gurmag Swiftwing. I love this card. This is so good. It has flying, first strike, and haste. So when you're playing a Voltron deck, you've got stuff like Sword of Fire and Ice, Sword of Feast and Famine. Simply dumping this 2-mana bat into the graveyard gives you 3 keyword abilities, which is so good. You should definitely run it in your Lazav deck. I mean, it's just like, I loved it. It was so good. I came across it because I was like, you know, this deck needs haste. That's what we need to get going. We need to get some sort of haste going. And it just felt good. I loved it. Okay, anything else? We did go for the Jace activation. We have 2 charge counters at Jitte. We're going to go and pass the turn to our opponent. So hopefully we'll be able to kind of close it out for next turn. Our opponent is going to be sitting at 6 life once they get this Phyrexian Arena trigger going. And then hopefully with the Lazav, having those Jitte charge counters on there, we can kind of keep control of the board and then hopefully push in on our opponent. Get some pretty good stuff done. But you can see where this deck can be pretty potent. Stuff like Virtus, kind of get rid of half of their life total, which will allow us to end up with some pretty good, just makes for some really fun board states, and that's exactly what we wanted to go for. Let's go and go for the Jitte counter onto that Scion token. If they're going to be digging for something, we need to make sure they stay off of that card draw. It does hurt me to do this to the Church of Athreos, but we... sometimes the church does owe money to the Dimir Guild, and we have to kind of collect it sometimes. It's just kind of, it's part of what it is like being in Ravnica. Alright, so we're going to have the Athreos trigger. It's going to be the Altar of Dementia trigger too. Not going to pay 3 life. So worried that I'm going to click on that Athreos trigger when I don't mean to. And if you really think about it, if you look at this, like, if you were to say, like, who's going to be in the Dimir Guild? Like, you would totally expect a bat to be in there. You'd expect Virtus to be in there, too. And then, of course, Blighted. I mean, this is just, this deck is so Dimir. I love it. It makes me really happy. Okay, so we have Sifter of Skulls with the Skull Clamp on there at this point right now. Basically, they're going to get some sort of devotion going for Athreos. They only have 1, 2, 3... Excuse me, they did go for the Altar of Dementia Crack, so that will allow them to get a little bit extra life gain. Do we want to pay that 3 life? Okay, because they need a creature, they're going to be able to draw a few more. It's going to be Sifter of Skulls. If they get a few more creatures down, they're going to get a few more Scion tokens. That's going to put us down to 4. We haven't seen Blood Arts, anything like that. Yeah, let's go and pay that life. Yeah, because they come back, they recast it, they go for Altar of Dementia again and equip. That's going to be 5 mana. But that's pretty much going to be the entire turn. Yeah, we'll go and pay that 3 life, but we'll keep it in the graveyard. Okay, it's going to put us down to 4, and we can actually still pay that trigger again. Because if they had something like Exsanguinate or something, they would have used it by now to kind of get rid of our life total. Okay, so our opponent's going to be going for Reanimate on Sultai Emissary. Whenever it dies, manifests the top part of your library. It's going to be a 2/2 creature. It's going to make them lose 2 life, put them down to 4, which I think we're okay with. Now, the only downside is we do have a trigger off of Uzama's Jitte. If we want to, we can actually go for that in response. Yeah, we just need to... Okay, so that's going to be interesting. So if we do let it go back to the hand, we go all the way down to 1. Yeah, we need to cut that card draw off, I think. Yeah, let's go for the Jitte activation. And then we can still pay for that Athreos trigger to make sure it stays in there. They will get that Manifest trigger, unfortunately, but I'm going to go down to 1. We've got the blockers for it. Might as well. Yeah, because if they get another Manifest thing going, that's going to be really hard for us to kind of do anything. And we always still have the -1 ability to bounce whatever sort of creature they get going back onto the battlefield. Now, that does allow them to go for the Skull Clamp equip onto this Manifest, whatever it is, but that's at least going to chew up 1 more mana, and they have to go for the Altar of Dementia sacrifice, and that leaves them at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so that'll give them about 5 mana. Okay, so it looks like they're going to pass the turn, potentially. Okay, they're going to kick the turn back over. Let's do this. Let's see what we draw into. Draw into Soul Ring. Let's go for the -1 ability. That way there's not really any sort of funny business from our opponent. They can go for that Altar of Dementia, but I think it's still the same creature. Yeah, let's go and go for the Manifest token. Bounce Manifest back to the hand. And let's go and go for the Hedron Archive activation. That's going to be 1/2 off of Worn Power Stone. Alright, opponent's going to go for Utter End on Lazav, which is still going to leave us at 3. Can we do anything in response to that? There's going to be Hope of Gearport, which is not going to do anything. Constable, it's not going to do anything. We can recast it, but... Okay, let's see if we can't hit a piece of Voltron off of this Hedron Archive crack. Yeah, because it's going to send Lazav back. Okay, so it's going to take care of Lazav. Oh, no, we still have Creeping Tar Pit. Excuse me. Okay, we still have Creeping Tar Pit. There we go. All right, let's go to get down Urborg. Let's go ahead and get down. Let's go for Creeping Tar Pit activation. And I'm going to equip Jitte onto a Blighted Agent. Okay, let's go and push across on this. Now, that will be exactly... we're looking at 6 total coming across, so we'll see if our opponent has any sort of other answer. But they're completely tapped out on mana, so this should be it. Okay, so we got the crew swinging in, and that is a very, I love this. This is a very demure crew. A Creeping Tar Pit, we got a Bat, a Vertus the Veiled swinging with his Ice Pickaxe. It's going to knock our opponent down to 1 with that first strike, and then the rest of the damage will definitely take care of it. So definitely a good game to our opponent. You can definitely see what this deck is capable of. We had a very quick Phyrexian Dreadnought, but for the sake of the video, since I already had a quick kind of Phyrexian Dreadnought win, I decided not to go for that. And I'm glad we did, because we kind of got to see a really nice showing for the deck. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see any of our Sword of Feast and Famine or Sword of Fire and Ice, but you can see how potent this deck can be by getting it down on something like Blighted Agent. And since it's simply just unblockable, you're basically trying to get as many threats on the battlefield that require some sort of answer from your opponent as quickly as possible. But definitely a good game to our opponent. It's always fun to play against Athreos. And if you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe. Thanks. Bye.